David Shaw. In January 2005, Australian diver David Shaw attempted one of the most dangerous and ambitious underwater missions in recorded history.
So that the Deio family can finally put closure to this very sad chapter in their lives.
To recover the body of a young man, Deio Dreyer, who had died 10 years earlier in a submerged cave system in South Africa called Bushman's Hole. Bushman's Hole is located in the Kalahari Desert. From the surface, it looks like a calm circular lake, but beneath it is a vertical freshwater cave that descends to over 270 meters, which is over 890 feet. The temperature here is so cold, like your teeth shatter cold, and it's so dark you can't see a thing past your own bubbles. You just had 10 minutes to get down and have over 12 hours to come back up, because if you come out too fast, you'll literally explode from the inside due to decompression sickness. Basically, diving to such depths is extremely dangerous, and coming back up is even more life-threatening, even for the most experienced technical divers, so it has to be done very carefully. In 1994, 20-year-old Deio Dreyer drowned while exploring Bushman's Hole. His body sank too deep for the rescue teams to retrieve, settling at around 270 meters. The cave became his grave. For a decade, Deion's family had no closure. His remains were unreachable, too deep, too dangerous.
And when I saw the body over to my left, I thought, oh, that's the end of going deep.
Until David Shaw came along. David first found Deion's skeleton at the bottom in October 2004 during a practice dive, still wearing his wetsuit, trapped by the silt and mud.
But found that he was very firmly stuck in the mud. Well, not actually his body, but his tanks that were on his back, they were in the mud. So the first thing I have to do when I reach him is remove him from his tanks.
But he didn't have the gear to bring him up, so he decided to return later and do it for real. David Shaw returned to Bushman's Hole with a full support team. The plan was to descend with a helmet camera, rebreather, and body bag, reach Deion's body at 270 meters, carefully secure it in the bag, ascend slowly with support divers meeting him at planned stages.
A body bag, what we've done is designed a body bag. This is it here, and I'll be taking this down with me.
On paper, it was a well-coordinated mission, but at that depth, everything is uncertain. Shaw reached the bottom successfully. He began securing Deion's remains into the body bag, but the silt at the bottom had settled around the corpse, and when Shaw disturbed it, something unexpected happened.
We're working hard. Undo the bag and put it over the legs. Everything's good. Check in, everything's right.
Gases that had built up in the body over the years made it buoyant. The corpse suddenly floated upward and became entangled in Shaw's gear and the bag. At the same time, Shaw's rebreather system began to fail. The partial pressure of oxygen at that depth likely became toxic. He started to lose motor control and awareness, a condition known as oxygen toxicity, which can cause seizures, blackouts, and death. His support diver, Don Shirley, waited at a shallower depth but could not safely descend to help without putting his own life at risk. Shaw was alone. Helmet camera footage, which was later reviewed privately by investigators but never released publicly, showed Shaw's final moments. He struggled to free himself but was unable to escape the tangle of equipment and Deion's body. He eventually lost consciousness and died at depth. Over the following days, both David Shaw and Deio Dreyer's bodies floated to the surface, still entangled. The same buildup of gases that had made Deion's body buoyant also affected Shaw's remains. The mission ultimately did what it set out to do, but at the highest possible cost. David Shaw died in the attempt, but he brought Deio Dreyer home to his family. Yuri Lipsky. This place isn't just some pretty vacation spot in Egypt. It's a death trap in disguise. The Blue Hole is a sinkhole that drops straight down over 300 feet with a deceptive tunnel called the Arch around 180 feet deep that leads out to the open ocean. It's also where dozens, yes, dozens of divers have died, simply because it looks easy. In April 2000, Yuri Lipsky, a Russian diving enthusiast, decided to take on the Blue Hole solo. He strapped a video camera to his helmet to film the dive, which was unfortunately big mistake number one. Then, he had no special gas mixture, just regular compressed air, and finally, he descended way too fast, like torpedo speed fast. As Yuri went deeper, the nitrogen in his air tank started messing with his brain chemistry. At around 100 plus feet, it's like being drunk. At 200 plus feet, it's like being blackout drunk while hallucinating in a haunted house. He hit 300 feet, got completely disoriented, and started spinning in circles. He thought he was in control. Sadly, he wasn't. At that depth, the pressure squishes the air in the regular gas and starts messing with your brain. The nitrogen in the air starts acting like a drug, which makes you feel drunk and confused. The state is called nitrogen narcosis. Basically, the oxygen in the air becomes toxic and can damage your body or even kill you. Unfortunately, that's what happened to Yuri. The scariest part about his death was that everything was recorded on his cam. At first, calm descent, then the bubbles get frantic, then he starts laughing maniacally, and finally starts flailing, dropping gear. You can hear his breathing become panicked and uneven. You could literally hear the moment the poor guy realizes he's going to die because he starts clawing at the sand trying to rise, but it's too late. Yuri's death is shown in diving classes as a "don't be this guy" warning. It's why deep dives require special gas mixes, training, and experience. The camera was recovered with his body, and the footage is all online, and disturbing enough to be banned in some forums. Diving is really scary, but not subscribing to the Evaluator has to be scarier. Just kidding. But guys, please subscribe for more videos, and be careful. Shaq Exley. Shaq wasn't your average weekend snorkel bro. This dude was the GOAT of cave diving. He pioneered techniques, broke records, and basically wrote the book literally on deep cave diving. If diving had a Hall of Fame, he'd be the Michael Jordan in fins. By 1994, he'd already logged over 4,000 dives, many in places most people wouldn't even look at, let alone swim into, but he had an obsession with going deeper and deeper.
During the long career that followed, he would go on to log a total of 4,000 dives.
Which brings us to Zakatone, which is a vertical water-filled pit, basically a flooded death trap. It's over 1,100 feet deep, which is deeper than the Eiffel Tower is tall. Blacker than space, cold, claustrophobic, unforgiving. Exley teamed up with another elite diver, Jim Bowden, and they both attempted to break the world record for the deepest scuba dive. Well, it went sideways fast. Basically, Exley was aiming for over 1,000 feet underwater. That's not just deep, that's insanely lethal. Human bodies are not designed to handle that kind of pressure. Literally, it's like trying to survive inside a crushed soda can. At those depths, oxygen turns toxic and nitrogen gets you high, so you have to breathe a custom mix of gases like helium, which is basically chemistry roulette. One wrong calculation, and you're out cold. Most experts believe Exley blacked out due to oxygen toxicity, meaning the very thing keeping him alive turned on him. Imagine your air becoming poison while you're over 800 feet underwater. No escape. And no help because Jim Bowden aborted his part of the dive early, so Exley kept going solo into the void. When rescuers eventually found his body, it was still clutching the guideline, like he was trying to find his way out. That image alone remains pure nightmare fuel. He knew the risks better than anyone. He was the best in the world, and still, he lost. That's what makes it brutal. It wasn't arrogance, it wasn't carelessness, it was just deep, dark waters, reminding us who's boss. Ben McDaniel. On August 18, 2010, Ben McDaniel, a 30-year-old diver from Tennessee, entered Vortex Spring, a freshwater diving site in Florida known for its deep underwater cave systems. Now, this was a dive like many others he had done, and while he wasn't certified for cave diving, he specialized in a very dangerous type of diving. He had even logged a significant number of dives and was known to frequently explore the cave system at Vortex Spring. At the time, Ben was dealing with personal challenges. He had recently moved to Florida to recover emotionally after the death of his younger brother and a failed business. Diving had become his escape and passion. Vortex Spring is a well-known diving site that features a crystal-clear spring with a cave entrance about 50 feet below the surface. Past the entrance, the cave narrows into a network of tight, twisting passages that reach depths of over 300 feet. The cave system is known for being extremely dangerous, and access beyond a certain point is blocked off by a metal gate. This gate is meant to keep unqualified divers out of the more hazardous areas. Only certified cave divers with special keys can legally pass through it. However, multiple reports suggest that Ben had previously gained access past the gate, likely with the help of friendly staff or locals, despite not being certified. On the evening of August 18, 2010, 2 dive shop employees saw Ben entering the water. He descended into the cave alone, and he never resurfaced. His truck was found in the parking lot with his wallet, phone, and keys inside.
Inside his truck, they found his wallet with $1,100 in cash, his cell phone, and his dive logs.
His dog was still waiting for him at home. When he failed to return, search and rescue divers began scouring the cave system. According to cave logs and local accounts, he had been exploring increasingly deeper parts of the cave in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. They found his dive tanks placed just inside the cave entrance, which suggested that he had gone deeper using other tanks. However, something strange stood out. The tanks contained only air, not the gas mixtures typically used for deep or technical dives. This raised concerns that he may not have been fully prepared for the dangers ahead. Expert divers, including some of the most experienced cave divers in the world, searched every accessible part of the cave over several days. They found no trace of Ben, no body, no equipment, no signs of distress. Many of the areas they searched were so tight and dangerous that the recovery efforts themselves pushed the limits of human endurance. Over the years, several theories have emerged about what may have happened to Ben McDaniel. Some say he became lost and died deep in the cave. This is the most widely accepted theory. He may have pushed beyond the mapped areas, become disoriented, and drowned. However, divers who explored these regions say they should have found at least some trace of him, gear, silt disturbances, or remains. Another theory says he staged his own disappearance. Some believe Ben faked his death and escaped, possibly to start a new life elsewhere. However, there's little to no evidence supporting this, and it's unlikely he would have left his close family and dog behind without a word. But whatever the cause might be, the scariest fact is that no one has ever found his body. Despite intensive search efforts by expert divers, there has been no trace of him to this day. His disappearance inside the cave system remains one of the most haunting and brutal diving mysteries ever recorded. Agnes Maloka. So, Tank Cave, located in South Australia near the town of Millicent, is an infamous site in the diving world. It's a labyrinthine system of over 7 kilometers of tight, low-ceiling tunnels, all of them submerged in groundwater. The passages are often too narrow to turn around in, and silt can reduce visibility to nothing with the flick of a fin. There are no direct ascents to the surface in Tank Cave. You can't just swim up if something goes wrong. Divers must navigate out the same way they came in, and that makes getting lost or disoriented one of the deadliest mistakes imaginable. Even with proper training, advanced gear, and careful planning, Tank Cave leaves little margin for error. And unfortunately for Agnes Maloka, she made an error. Agnes wasn't just another diver, but was widely respected in the international diving community. Born in 1981 in Melbourne, Australia, she became one of the most visible figures in the world of technical and cave diving. She explored uncharted underwater cave systems, contributed to scientific studies, appeared in National Geographic documentaries, and was one of the few certified to dive in extremely hazardous environments, where visibility drops to zero and the nearest surface could be hundreds of meters away through narrow, flooded passages. Her work helped map underwater cave systems that had never been fully explored. In many ways, she was pushing the boundaries of what humans could do underwater. On the day of her death, Maloka was part of a small team diving the cave. Her specific task involved laying new guideline reels, thin cords that serve as lifelines, making the way in and out of a system where visibility is often too poor to rely on sight alone. At some point during the dive, Agnes entered a section of the cave on her own, a common practice in exploration diving, but in a highly silty passage, she became separated from the guideline. It's important to understand just how critical that line is. Without it, divers have no way of knowing which direction leads to safety. In total darkness, in a maze of identical tunnels with time ticking down on air supply, the situation becomes immediately life-threatening. She realized she was lost. Her breathing would have increased, burning through her remaining air faster. Divers are trained for emergencies like this, but in cave diving, even perfect training can't always overcome physics and time. Her body was found the next day by a recovery team, just 20 meters from an air bell, a pocket of breathable air trapped in the cave ceiling. She had almost made it. The saddest part about this all was that she wasn't even joy diving or sightseeing. She was helping map the cave for others. Her dive was meant to make future explorations safer. Craig Deio. Craig Deio allegedly died underwater when his scuba tank imploded. Not exploded, imploded, like it crumpled inward on itself with enough force to crush his chest cavity, like a soda can getting stomped on by Bigfoot. Craig was said to be on a routine dive, nothing out of the ordinary. The exact location and depth vary depending on who tells the story, but most versions agree on the basics. He was using a standard aluminum scuba tank when, without warning, it collapsed inward under pressure. The result was fatal. His chest was crushed, his lungs likely collapsed, and blood filled his mask. The term implosion is key here. Unlike an explosion, where pressure bursts outward, an implosion is a violent inward collapse, typically caused by external pressure overwhelming the structure from the outside. The idea that this could happen to a scuba tank during a dive is what makes the story so unsettling. From a specific standpoint, scuba tanks are built to endure extreme conditions. Most are made from aluminum or steel and are rigorously tested to handle pressures of 3,000 psi or more. They're engineered to withstand the highest internal pressure of compressed air as well as the external pressure from the surrounding water. But that's the problem. Implosions aren't typically what divers fear. Explosions during refilling or from overpressurization are far more documented. An implosion, especially one strong enough to kill a diver, would require a very specific set of circumstances, like a critical structural flaw in the tank, likely undetectable to the naked eye. Exposure to extreme cold, which could weaken the tank's integrity, and possibly abnormal external pressure, such as from very deep water, far deeper than recreational limits. In theory, if all of these conditions lined up perfectly, an implosion could occur, but it would be exceedingly rare, to the point where there are no verified documented cases of it ever happening in this exact way. Here's where things become even murkier. There are no official records confirming Craig Deio's death. No autopsy reports, no newspaper articles, no dive incident logs. That doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. It might have occurred under a different name or in a private or classified setting, but as far as public documentation goes, the case doesn't exist.